The city of Herat in western Afghanistan. It's been more than 8 years since the Taliban ruled these streets. But for many of the women here, life has barely changed. Unmarked in a back street is this refuge for women and girls who've been abused. The location is secret to protect them from violent relatives, like the husband of this 16-year-old girl. This is Sarah. She's only 12 years old and was about to be traded for a house.
من گفتم مرد جو مفته بود کارو میکردو تو شما به زیر بار ما کالون شه شما تیتباره کن دختر من پیشکش کنه بده بلی سرای دا که اینا که میخی برارا خونه انا من خیلی بچه وقت دادم خب کافت است برو به اونجا با خدا چیش میدی چیش که ممنون فکر آره خب کافت است خاطر سوتا خاطر آسان
The refuge is part of a non-government organisation called Voice of Women. It's run by Suraya, one of Herat's leading women's rights activists. During the Taliban's rule, she conducted secret classes teaching girls who were banned from schooling. But in President Karzai's Afghanistan, her work is far from over. Each day, she confronts systematic abuse, including young women and even children who are raped or forced into marriage.
Unfortunately, in Afghanistan, forced and child marriage is not reduced since 2001, and still it is a high and it's a common practices, not only in the rural area, in the remote area, even in the central of the cities. That we see every day the cases of forced marriages.
Suraya's is the only women's refuge in all of western Afghanistan, and this afternoon it's nearly full. For Afghan women who want to escape forced marriages and abuse, there are few options.
The law says no one can push the women to marry with someone, but the law doesn't, we don't have law enforcement. We have beautiful paper in the Constitution, we have beautiful laws, but the implementation of the law is in the hand of the warlords, in the hand of the commanders, in the hand of the religious leaders. When they are able to make the decision, no one can stop them.
For those not lucky enough to make it to Suraya's shelter, worse fates are sometimes waiting. This is Herat's juvenile detention centre, and it holds many sad stories. Suraya convinces the guards here to let me inside. I find the inmates are sewing garments for the prison to sell. Many of the girls are here because they ran away from home, which is a crime for women in Afghanistan, regardless of the reason.
They are here because of forced and child marriages. They run away, and then according to the law, the government put them in the jail.
As well as running away, about half of the girls here have also been charged with adultery, an accusation that often hides a terrible truth.
Some of them are here who are raped, but unfortunately they are here, and it's considered, the rape considered as adultery.
Under Afghan law, it is extremely difficult for women to prove they've been raped.
If anyone raped, they should prove with 3 witnesses. Or somehow they should prove that they are raped and it was not their wish and they were not part of that. And even if it has happened in some area and some witnesses be there, no one wants to be witness against a man.
This is Nadia. She's just 12 years old.
مادیا جان چرا فرار کردی از خانه؟ چی مشکل بود؟
این مرتکی بوده، خود زن خواهم دست بده، من اختطاف کرده بودم.
بس چرا بزن اینجا آوردن؟
از این خاطر او بالا تجاوز کرده بوده، من پس اینجا کردم.
مرد تجاوز کرد؟
بله.
Because she was abused and it was considered as adultery cases, and they put her in jail, in correction center.
من اصلا حال گناه نداشتم، بازار خاطر زندگی خوب.
Nadia has already been held here for 8 months and has another 4 to serve.
بعد از اینکه اینجا بری کجا میری؟ پدر تو میاد دیدن تو؟
پدر میاد، خیلی پدر میاد. چیزی نه که از زمان اول میگه که مشروع تو نمزد خواسته، نمزد خواهم خیلی پیریه.
چند ساله؟
30 ساله.
Police investigations into these girls' cases are basic at best. Farzana is also 12 years old, and she too has been charged with adultery.
زیتی بوده من همسایه ما بغل دست سرمون نیمه دیشتم بغل دست سرمون نیمه دیشتم نیمه همسایه ما مسئول متجاوز کنم مردیشو بورد من داخل دکون خو من بیوش کرده.
Farzana says the police didn't properly investigate her claims of rape.
خودت مثلا از چیز خوابو بردم دیگه معاینه کردم از جلوی رومه دست ندم پشت سرم دست.
There are at least another 18 girls being held here in similar circumstances, all desperate to get out.
چی پیامی خواد داشتی؟
ما هزینه دولت ها ما تو چیز دارم که مثلا من هزینه آزاد کنم من خیلی از چیز میکنم از اون.
Some of these girls, they say they're being raped, but then because they can't prove that they were raped, they end up being charged with adultery. And some of them are as young as 13, 12, 14. What's the government going to do about this?
We have mechanisms to address unfortunate situations like that if they do arise. One is through the Ministry of Women's Affairs, and then the other programs are through the Ministry of Justice, and then you have legal representation for people who cannot afford it or are not able to get legal aid otherwise.
But isn't it more about the fact that maybe this shouldn't be illegal?
If they are, as I said, arbitrarily taken into detention center, it's absolutely wrong. And we'll be sure to pursue incidents you just mentioned. But otherwise, we have our laws, the country's laws, Islamic country, and of highly conservative society. Adultery is seen, under the law, punishable. So if there are real incidents of adultery, then the laws, take their course.
Challenging these views can be a dangerous business. Suraya's work has sparked death threats against her, both from abusive husbands and from local warlords who don't like what she is doing.
Mostly I receive the phone call threats. They're calling me and asking me if you don't send the girls or women in this time, in this location, they will kill me, they will kidnap my children, or they will create problem for my organization.
Suraya went to the local authorities to ask for a bodyguard, but they said they couldn't spare a policeman to give her protection.
Hopefully in the future they can do that, but not now. But I'm at risk now. I need now. I cannot wait for tomorrow. If something's happened tomorrow, that will be late. But they made a kind of excuse, and then they said they cannot provide anything.
While Suraya's work has received praise from the president and international acclaim, she still struggles to get adequate funding. And she accuses the West of not paying enough attention to women's rights in Afghanistan over the last 8 years.
They don't take women issue serious. They are busy with security issue. They think security is in the priority, and if they pay attention for that, everything will be okay. But they forget that we are 50% of the population of Afghanistan. We are able to improve the condition of the country if they don't ignore us.
For abused women who can't make it to the shelter or can't bear the thought of being arrested, another desperate and horrific option has become common. In Herat hospital, I find this young woman, Zia. She's 18 years old and has been married for 5 years.
أنا خیلی سختی بود خوردن که بودم که ارسته که قرار نمیفهمیدم خانه جا قرار میرفتم اینجا بخواب بازی میکردم قرار با مرد همه کشید میزد تا که الان کبر شدم با که بخواب بفهمیدم أنا باید کارهای کرد سر ما آخر
Zia set herself on fire after deciding that she couldn't take her husband's beatings anymore.
سر ما آخر خلقم تنگ شده که ما همین کار به سر کردم.
Now her burns have healed and her husband wants to take Zia back to the village, but she doesn't want to go.
که ما که اینجا باشم خانه پیرم اینجا باشه این هر رقم میزنه و میکنه و کس نمیبلند سره اینجا بودی میکرد که کجا که بره اینجا بره باشته کارهای خواه کرد.
Each year, around 100 young women from this area try to commit suicide by setting themselves on fire.
خانم ها انتخاب کردن پدیده است که از 83 از سال 83 از 2003
Dr. Muhammad Arif Jalali is the director of the burns unit.
و یا در همون محیطی که او خودسوزی انجام میده کسی نیست که برای از کمک بکنه او با فسیلی‌های بلند مراجعه میکنه بیشتر واقعیت فوت میکنن از 84 واقعی که ما در سال گذشته داشتیم 63 واقعه فوت کرده یک گراف 90% 85% خودسوزی ها فوت میکنن و او 15% هم که شفایاب میشن مطمئنا با مشکلات بسیار زیاده هم از نظر که از نظر زیبایی مورد تهدید قرار دارن تقریبا به یک مرگ تدریجی مواجه هستند.
20-year-old Anar Gal has been in the burns unit for the past 8 months. Even she finds it hard to believe that she set herself on fire to escape years of abuse from her husband.
فقط ازم راه میامد اگه چای میارد و نون میارد نه چای نه دست نمیخواد فقط مشتول قطعی نمیست وقتی هم که فشار آورد بس هم نفهمیدم من از پرغازم داشتم برفتم به خونه نفهمیدم بفتادم آگاه نشدم که من چی رقم چراغ تل باره ریختم چی رقم بخور در دادم هر چه که از من روز اول میپرسیدم میگفتم من نکردم هر کس بیده من در دادم من نکردم حالا خود من میفهمم جون خود حالا اگر پاسمان یک چی بگم یک سطله و چشمام میرید تا من پاسمان میکنم دل من میترقه.
Anar's wounds are infected, but Dr. Jalali doesn't have the facilities available to treat her condition.
انا یک هفته که میگم بریم پاکستان پول به ما پیدا نمیشه کسی به ما پول نمیده که پول پیدا شه به قرض که من ببرم برای من که چیزی نداره که چیز کنه.
13-year-old Jamila also set herself on fire. Last year, her parents sold her to a 25-year-old man in return for some sheep. Her new family abused her terribly, so she decided to commit suicide, something she now regrets. But Jamila blames poverty and not her parents for her situation.
نمیفهم دختر خوب اشتی جا میدم اما زنه میکنن که دخترش باش کلان شه یک بر خودشو بفهمه مردم بیچاره ایران دخترها خواهم میدم چقدر چرقران پیداش پردشو بشه.
Jamila's little sister is now terrified at the thought of getting married.
ما نمیخوایم کار بازو خواهر ما بترسیده ما میخواد یک چیزی باشه ما رسیدیم.
With an election imminent, some are hoping for an improvement in women's rights in Afghanistan, but the chances are slim. Warlords have long set appalling standards for the treatment of women here, and President Hamid Karzai has picked two powerful warlords as his running mates. Mohammed Fahim and Kareem Halili have both been accused of war crimes. In Kabul, I find a family in hiding. Their story is testament to how much power many of the local warlords still wield.
مگه ما خانه مگه ما خواب بودیم پدرم مادرم ما بیدارم یک بچه شب 5 نفر مثلا آمد ما را لط کپ کرد.
13-year-old Anisa and her mother were raped in their home by men who were linked to a local warlord. Police arrested the men, but according to this family, 3 of them were quickly let go due to their links with the warlord and a member of parliament.
اونا به خاطر که پشتوان زور دارن، پشتوان قوی دارن، در پارلمان نفر دارن، جنرالا از اونا پشتوانی میکنه، قماندان هستن، اونا تفنگدار هستن، زور کس نمیره. ما خود مظلوم غریب آدم هستیم، ما در خانهمون برآمده نمیتونیم. ما کی بگیره؟ کو قانون، کو بازخواست، کو حکومت.
Anisa's uncle, Ali Khan, is continuing the family's fight for justice. But he says he's being pressured to withdraw his testimony against the 2 men who remain in custody.
خودم مرا مستقیم اخطار میته میگه دعوا نکن.
خودم وکیل.
ها خودشون مستقیم اخطار میته.
He doesn't believe there will be any justice for women in Afghanistan, while warlords like President Karzai's running mates, Fahim and Halili, continue to dominate the political scene.
به نظر من اگر تا که پای قدم ای تفنگ سالارا این قماندانای سابق اینایی که نامشان جهادی ماندن تا که اینا باشد افغانستان آرام نمیشه. اولی جناب آقای کرزی کاندید کرده، معاون اول مارشال فهیم گرفته، معاون دوم خلیل. اردوی 2 تا تفنگ سالار است دیگه. چهرهای سیاستن اینا کیستن؟ اینا کسایی هستن که 2 میلیون جوان افغانستان از بین بردن. اگر کرزی خودش تنها بکنه، تنها خودش کاندید بکنه، اگر کرزی دی چهره شریک نیست.
The Karzai government's commitment to women's rights has been openly questioned since a controversial new law was passed in February. The law applied to Afghanistan's 6 million strong Shia community and stated that women could not leave the house without male permission. It also reduced women's rights in divorce proceedings and even decreed that women must be sexually available to their husbands at least 4 nights a week.
و در نص قرآن مجید آمده زن باید از شوهر خود اطاعت بکنه.
Shia Member of Parliament, Syed Hussein Alemi Balki, supported the introduction of the controversial law.
چون در افغانستان نوعاً اداره خانه به عهده زن است و اگر مثلا خب زنم بدون اجازه شوهر هر وقت دلش خواست از خانه بیرون بره کدام ضرورتی هم نداشته باشه در این صورت خب وضعیت زندگی از همدیگه میپاشه.
When the details of the law became public, there was an outcry among Afghanistan's women and international condemnation. President Karzai was forced to call for a review of the law, claiming he hadn't been fully informed.
The president did not know the details of the law. He knew of certain details which were, fine, were not controversial, but there was an oversight. So, and things like this happen in other countries as well.
But that's not how Syed Hussein Alemi Balki remembers it. Did President Karzai know about the details of this bill before it was passed?
بله کاملا. چون این قانون چند دفعه پیش کرزی رفته. یکی قبل از اینکه در شورا بیایه کمیته قوانین شورای وزیران یک قانون خوانده تصویب کرده بعد برده در مجلس وزرا تحت ریاست کرزی قانون تصویب کردن.
Spurred on by continued discrimination, young Afghan women are increasingly joining the fight for their rights.
بر از اونها یک رقم نشان بده که مثلا من کسی هستم که دموکرات هستم، من حقوق زن میخوایم، من اعتقاد به دموکراسی دارم و یکی از
This is a clandestine meeting being run by RAWA, the Revolutionary Association of the Women of Afghanistan. It's a political action group, but even so, these women don't want to be identified. Because of death threats, membership is kept secret.
این چیزای اولیه است. بازی قوانین هم درست است که باشه قوانینه، ولی نه یک قوانینی که به حساب پامال کنه حقوق زنه، مثلا زیر پا کنه یا نقص کنه در مجموع، مثل که ما مثالای زیاد از این قوانین داریم.
Rawa members see the recent law targeting Shia women as proof of how little attitudes have changed under President Karzai.
اولین کاری که میکنه چی میکنه؟ بازم بنیادگرایی ها رو در اطراف خود میگیره. اعضای کابینه‌اش از بنیادگرایی، پارلمانش بنیادگرا، تمام دستگاه دولتش ساخته شده از بنیادگرا میباشه. ولی
A symbolic victory may soon be won, with Parliament set to pass new laws criminalising violence against women. But these activists know that real cultural change will take much longer.
بله، یگانه چیزی که واقعا در افغانستان هم یعنی یا قوانین را اول طرح میکنه، همیشه میگه که زن و مرد همیشه حقوق مساوی می داشته باشه در تمام عرصه ها، و از یک طرف ما میشنویم که یا قوانین را میسازه که میگه یعنی حقوق زن به اصطلاح یا پایمال میسازه.
Movements like Rawa are growing, but for those brave enough to fight for women's rights, the stakes are getting higher. The Taliban have taken to targeting and assassinating activists across the country. In April this year, Suraya Ashikzai, a politician and a women's rights advocate, was shot dead outside her home. And last November, Kandahar's first female police superintendent, Malalai Kaka, was murdered. The mother of 6 had been in charge of the Crimes Against Women office. But despite the dangers, women like Suraya are continuing the struggle, determined that one day their daughters will enjoy the same freedoms as other women around the world.
I have a strong commitment to help women in Afghanistan. I would like to work hard today to pave the road for the generation of Afghanistan. I would like to suffer today and sacrifice for women's rights, but at least the next generation should have their voices to raise.